for. They should get greedy about it.
Especially in June.
Especially.
I mocked it on Twitter. I love if the playoffs started today in June.
What's wrong with that?
Well, it's baseball, and we're halfway through the season,
I know,
and it's stupid.
But this is what they are. This is what they are right now.
Yeah, but does that matter?
Kind of.
No, it doesn't.
What do you mean it doesn't?
June?
If they were...
What are we going to put up an in-season tournament banner type thing?
But
we're a wild card team on June 27th.
No, I like in-season tournament banners, but it's not. No, I wouldn't do that. I would say it's what they're tracking for, though. It's predictive of their pace. If they were in last place, we wouldn't make a big deal out of that. In June, we just go, oh, it's June, they're in last place, don't worry about it.
Oh, we would.
Okay.
We absolutely would.
Well, so why can't we make a big deal about them being in the playoffs?
Because it's meaningless when you're literally one loss away from being out of the playoffs. And also, as Alex Cora points out, it's the third wild card spot.
Okay, so they should aim higher. I agree with that. And they haven't clinched a playoff spot or anything like that.
They're only one game out of the second wild card spot, and they're in the mix, I guess is the point. Like
they're always in the mix.
No, they're not always in the mix.
Yeah, they're not.
In recent years, all we've heard is they're in the mix. They're 3 out of this. They're 2 out of... Like, I don't care. You're not a contender.
Okay.
Like, you're a pretender.
So, are they a playoff team as is? Sounds like Andy doesn't think
that
one. No. Are they in the playoffs if they upgrade, or are they not a playoff team?
So, I think they're not a playoff team, but I don't know the upgrade. Like, what's the upgrade? I mean, are we talking about, like, significant upgrades? Do they trade for Juan Soto?
Well, let's set the baseline at, like, Schwarber.
You tell me.
Like
what do they need to be a playoff team? Do they need a significant move? Do they need to move like Schwarber?
Make the move they need to do that?
Probably not. So, yeah, you're right. I answered my own question. They're not a playoff team, despite the fact that they're a playoff team on June 27th. I know that says that. No, they're not a playoff team.
Okay, not a playoff team. Arcan, how'd you vote?
I voted that they would be if they upgraded, and I think that they have significant talent on this team, at least so far early on, and it's stuff that I wasn't expecting. No one expected Tanner Houck to do what he's doing. No one expected Jarren Duran to do what he's doing, but those two guys are killing it right now, Houck in particular, and I think when you have a strong rotation with a figurehead at the top of it like that, you can make a run. I mean, you can stay in the mix. You can stay in the wild card at the very least. And you look at the rest of the AL East, obviously Baltimore is better than you. The Yankees are better than you. You have a pretty good lead over the Blue Jays, who you handled in 2 series there. And Tampa Bay is having a very disappointing season, too. So I've sort of been waiting for one of those 2 teams to get hot and start really making a run for that third-place spot there, and neither of them have. So as long as that's going on, as long as the Red Sox can sort of stay in the middle of the AL East, and I think they can do that if they add a couple of pieces, if they add one starting pitcher and maybe a relief arm or 2 and maybe an infielder, like there's various ways they can go about this. It's not that crazy, honestly.
Pitcher, relief arm, and what? And an
infielder.
And a stick, okay.
And are you counting Casas returning?
I am counting Casas returning.
And are you
And they are too, by the way.
Bayo is like not being terrible?
He didn't start off the year terribly. He's been terrible since then.
Because those are some of the wild cards in my theory.
And those are fair to have.
Casas is. I'm expecting Casas to come back and
be
play
Ted
well.
Williams.
I think he'll be good.
Not Ted Williams, but I'm not saying. Hey, it's like a trade deadline acquisition, but he is going to come back and make an impact. I think. I expect nothing out of Bayo. Like I don't expect anything out of him.
I expect Bayo to get back to sort of the mean. I don't think he's going to be this bad all year. I think he's going to have ups and downs like he has most of the years of his career so far. Because he's still a young player.
I think part of my hesitancy to call them a playoff team is like Duran has been really good, better than anyone could have expected. Right? Do we assume or presume that that's going to continue?
I think he can.
Because I think
if you get a percentage of this, that's okay.
I think there's just as good a chance that Casas comes back and looks good. Maybe he's not Ted Williams, which everybody was painting him as heading into the season.
Yeah,
but he's good.
Yep.
And then Duran falls off
a little bit,
30%.
Okay.
And you're like, well, did we get any better, or did we just kind of move the deck chairs around?
I think that's better, but if you're expecting some regression from Duran, that's fair. I think this could be real with him. And so I don't know that I'm wagering on him putting up these numbers for the rest of the year, but I agree. He's hot right now.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to fall off that much, though. And I think, what he did in May, where he was basically invisible and wasn't running the bases, I think his June is much closer to what he is than his May, if that makes sense. And so if he falls off, I don't think he's falling back to like an irrelevant player. To me, I think they're a playoff team as is. And that is not a request to do nothing at the deadline and sit on your hands.
Right.
Yeah, no, like
John Henry just clicked in. He's like, "Ooh, that's a good soundbite.
Okay.
Let's hear that."
Well, first of all, we know he doesn't pay attention. But if he did, this would be one he would like. I think they're a playoff team as is. I think they're a good enough team to make the postseason as is. But if I were running the team, to ensure it, I would say we need to make moves to be a championship contender. Like I would be aiming higher and getting greedy, like Alex Cora said. I think you could be a playoff team right now. Get Casas back. Houck might win the Cy Young. Duran's in the mix for the MVP. Cora's doing a good job this year. Look at the teams around them. It's like the Royals and the Twins, and maybe the Astros get hot behind them, maybe. But I think they're a playoff team as is. they should be aiming higher and making moves to not just sneak into the third wild card spot. They should be making moves to contend. And so that's what I think they would need to make moves to do. They can make moves to secure themselves getting into the postseason. But again, I would want to get greedy about that. I would aim higher than that. I'd be making moves to try and contend for a championship or make a title push. That's the kind of moves I'd be making.